There's an argument to be made that this could be Lewis Hamilton's most important season in Formula One. He bet big on Ferrari for 2026. Could he possibly win a championship? Here to help me discuss that and more from Viaplay, Dutch motorsport reporter Nelson Valkenburg. Nelson, how important is this season for Lewis Hamilton?
Well, Tim, I think you can characterize it as make or break. It's now or never for Lewis in his relationship with Ferrari, but also in this final part of his career. He has to deliver with Ferrari this year.
In the last two seasons, Hamilton's been outperformed by both of the teammates. One at Mercedes in 2024 and George Russell, and then last season, 2025, with Charles Leclerc. Nelson, do you believe that Lewis Hamilton is as good as Charles Leclerc?
I think he's not as fast as Charles Leclerc. That's not to say that he is as good or not as good. He has a lot of tools still in his toolbox and a lot of experience, but I believe Charles Leclerc in this phase of Lewis's career might be a little bit quicker, and that is as you'd expect it to be with a career that has gone on so long, and you're basically in your 40s as you try to keep up with the younger generation. But on his day, Lewis will be able to perform. If it's a very complicated day, if it's about tire management or something else like that, he will be there. But is he as quick as his teammate? That I don't think so.
I think also with this current regulation that we're coming into, we don't really know how much it really suits Hamilton's driving style. You know, in years past with the ground effect floors, heavier cars, you know, Hamilton didn't really get used to that, and you couldn't really see him adapt as much as when in years past he was able to do that with higher raked cars and things of that nature. So, you know, Nelson, when we take a look at this regulation change and there is more rake in these cars, do you believe that, you know, Hamilton could actually be a lot more comfortable in this new regulation?
If you look at solely the car itself, the aerodynamic regulation, the chassis regulation, you'd assume that Hamilton would be a lot happier with this car compared to last year's car. But there's an awful lot of new technology there. There's an awful lot of adapting to do with implementation of power, harvesting of power, and that's a whole new ball game. So in that respect, we have no clue what to expect from Lewis's season and how he stacks up against Charles Leclerc.
If things don't go well for Lewis this season, Nelson, do you feel that he could be at Ferrari for 2027?
I think he could be there, but then it really has to go well. I fear that this may be his final season, and you just don't know for certain. But I mostly saw him in the first week in Bahrain when I was on site for that, and I was in the commentary booth for the second week. And in the first week, he cut a very lonely and unhappy figure. But he was a lot happier in the second week and a lot more cheerful about the regulations. These drivers don't become the best drivers in the world by giving up. That is what made them better. They believe they are the best, and that's the only way to get to Formula One, believing that you're world championship material. So letting go of that belief is incredibly hard for any top athlete, let alone the greatest F1 driver of all time. So that struggle has been going on for years now. That if that struggle continues this year with the new regulations on which he pinned all his hopes, that it could be his last year. But on the other hand, he could be in fights for victories. So who knows in that respect? It will depend on where he is with the Ferrari compared to the rest.
Yeah, I was at Bahrain for week 2 of testing, and he did look a lot happier with the car compared to week 1 of testing. But for this season, I mean, if things aren't really going well for Lewis, you know, I have to take a look further down the grid at Oliver Behrman. I mean, obviously, I think Behrman is a part of this Ferrari program, Nelson, and if Behrman really does outperform Esteban Ocon, and you see Lewis Hamilton, who is one of the greatest drivers in F1 history, but if you see him start to struggle, if you're Frederick Vasseur, I mean, I think you've got to really take a closer look at what your driver lineup could be for the 2027 season, don't you think?
Yeah, but everybody's talking about Behrman. He had a massive second half of the season last year, but his first half was a true rookie half. He made a lot of mistakes, but the problem with the Lewis Hamilton Ferrari marriage to me is that it needs more than a few good races to pay back what has been invested in that contract. And if he is not happy, then what he projects outwardly is something Ferrari really cannot have or use. But we might be jumping the gun massively without having any races under our belts in 26. But the pressure will be on, and you can see it a little bit at Haas. They've made some interesting changes, brought in Jack Doohan as a reserve driver just in case someone is snatched up mid-season. So it is definitely something we all speak about in the paddock, and I think Lewis is aware of that as well.
If things go well for Mercedes and they don't go well for Ferrari this season, do you think that Lewis Hamilton made the wrong bet in going to Ferrari?
Well, it depends, because he wasn't offered a multi-year deal at Mercedes. So would he have been in the car right now after maybe losing out to George Russell for another year? Would they have then put Kimi Antonelli in for this season? I believe that relationship was ending. It had run its course. He was given a massive opportunity to just throw the dice one more time. Like the Mercedes choice all those years ago was a massive gamble from the outside. But it paid off, and he definitely went into this Ferrari deal with the hopes of rekindling that magic and seeing some payoff. And I really hope for him that in one way or some shape or form it actually happens. But I don't believe if Mercedes dominates this year or takes the title with George Russell, he will have any regrets, because I don't think he could have changed anything about the situation and his contract at Mercedes.
During week 2 of testing, I saw him over with the team, with Mercedes, and, you know, having some jovial conversations, getting caught back up with Bono, his former race engineer, and I got the inkling that maybe at that moment he might have been thinking, if things don't go well for me at Ferrari, did I make a mistake with not sticking with Mercedes? Granted, Kimi Antonelli was waiting in the wings to sort of come in and take over, but at that moment, if you're Toto Wolff a few years ago, I think you make the decision to try and extend Lewis Hamilton as much as possible, given, like I had mentioned earlier, he is one of the sport's greatest all-time drivers. But it will be interesting to see how things go for him at Ferrari. They do look like they have a pretty competitive car for them this season. Nelson Valkenburg, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us. We appreciate it.